Hey everyone, it's Michael Zapersky here, and today I have Ken Welsh with us. Ken, welcome.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me on board, and hello, everyone.
Yes, Ken, I'm really excited for this conversation. The last time you and I spoke, it was in person. It was a real pleasure to meet you when I was with my family in Australia. And actually, you and I go back many years, more than probably either one of us can remember.
Yeah,
But I'm excited because I've always been impressed with what you've accomplished and how you operate, how you think, and how you act as a person, but also in business. And so your background as a professional communicator for over 3 decades. You've been coaching since 1999. Your clients include well-known organizations like KPMG, IBM, Coca-Cola, headsets.com, a whole bunch of other, and they hire you really for team building, communication training, client experience coaching. You've written 3 books and you've mastered the art of helping organizations to really create a remarkable experience for clients and customers. On LinkedIn, if someone goes there and says, who's this Ken Welsh guy, they'll see that you call yourself a business voice coach, which might throw some people off. So tell us, what does that mean, Ken, and a little bit more about what you actually do.
it's interesting, Mike. The way the term business voice coach came about was because of quite a few of my North American clients. They decided that what I do is I create the voice of the business. Now, that's partially the way people sound. So when you're dealing with people, the tone, the rhythm, but it's also very much the messaging and the words you use.
Mm.
So for instance, in one respect, I was working with some restaurants in New York, and their approach to business was, let's identify one word that sets what we are. So Gabriella's, which is this amazing Mexican restaurant, decided celebrate was what they were about. So we weave that sort of language through everything they do, all their messaging, from the way the customers are greeted through to the menu and the advertising. So it's about creating the voice of the business.
Mm. And it makes me kind of think, I think a lot of owners of businesses or executives would want to own that themselves. It's something that they would want to, already have. Why bring an external person in to help us decide on what our voice should be? That's something that we should already own. What does that dynamic look like? I mean, how have you found that clients are kind of bringing you in or inviting you to have that conversation when it seems like it's something that's so personal to the organization or to the owner of the business themselves?
Well, I work with two different companies in two different positions.
Mm-hmm.
One is a new company that's just starting out and it's trying to brand itself, trying to create its identity. Others are ones where you're absolutely right. The president of the company has a strong vision. Their marketing team have a really strong vision. What they want is that extra that you can add on to it.
Mm.
So for instance, my dissertation was that language has the ability to create physiological change that results in behavioral change. So the words we use, if we're precise enough, can create a very big difference on the impact we have with our customers. And that's internal customers as well as external customers. So
Right.
It's helping those people expand on the vision they already have. It's challenging because they already know what they want, but it's an amazingly exciting experience when you see those people see their vision come to life in a whole new level.
Yeah. So how do people find out about you? Because I think one thing that really struck me many years ago, Ken, when we first started talking, and then again, more recently when we met in Australia, most of your clients are coming to you. You're not going out and doing a lot of outreach, or you don't have your face on some billboard on the side of, a Sydney freeway. So how are your clients, which are actually very global, which we should talk about as well, how are they, like, what have you been doing to generate opportunities for your business?
Really, it has all been word of mouth. I have done virtually no advertising and marketing. It's one person passes me on to another. I have a, excuse me, I have a limited scope where I work with only 10 companies a year. I won't go beyond that. I don't feel I can give the quality that I need to. Some of the companies I'll embed myself with for a month at a time. Other ones I'll do regular check-ins by phone and do face-to-face. And as you said, they're all over the world. So really, it has just been word of mouth because it's a fairly unique product. And it's challenging to get the message across to a bigger spectrum of clients exactly what I need, because I tailor it uniquely to each person and each company. So yeah, word of mouth, and they just send me an email or go onto my website,
And
which is kenwelsh.com.
Can you trace that back to the first client that you had? Like, can you see, oh yeah, it all started from this one client and then went to the next and to the next and to the next?
Yeah, absolutely. My real champion is a guy called Mike Faith, who runs headsets.com, which is in San Francisco and Nashville. Mike spent about 6 months trying to track down a coach that would work only on the phone because he had a call center. And it had to be Mike's way of doing things. And he tried out half a dozen sales coaches and said, that's not what I want. He was after customer loyalty, a term he calls customer love. So Mike started off my international work. Very quickly, that developed to a much stronger relationship. I've been working with them for nearly 20 years now. And I'm even included in their recruitment process sometimes. With Mike's team, they do such an amazing job of customer service over the phone that a company called Los Niños in New York were buying headsets. And Scott Mesh, who runs Los Niños, rang up, had such a great experience. He then tracked down Mike Faith and rang him and said, look, you're the president of this company. How do you get these people to do it? And Mike literally said 2 words, Ken Welsh, and put me onto Los Niños. From that, I can track that. It's almost like watching my family tree grow to work in Vancouver, to more work in New York, New Jersey, into London because of someone who contacted someone who contacted someone. So yeah, I can track the whole family tree.
You mentioned 10 clients per year, and that you won't go beyond that. That's really interesting because I think a lot of people these days are looking, and the buzzword is scale. It's growth, right? It's more money, more of this, more of that, more team, and so forth. You've done the exact opposite by limiting to only 10 clients. How do you just take us through like the thought process there, Ken? Why do you do that? Why not find ways to make more money, to scale, to grow, to leverage what you have, or maybe you have, they're just not apparent at the surface level. Just walk us through your thoughts around the business, the lifestyle, and decisions around growth and limiting and capacity.
Okay, Mike. It's a really interesting one because I've been asked to go into larger companies or to merge with larger companies. The decision I made very early on was I wanted a life-work balance, not a work-life balance. I only chose clients I enjoyed working with. I was offered opportunities to work with enormous companies. One was a call center in India that wanted me to run a personalized workshop with 500 people in the class. So everyone has a different approach, and that wasn't what I was about. I was about creating a highly personalized product for individuals or individual companies. One element was I didn't want a conflict of interest. I become embedded in a company. I know a lot of their ins and outs. I work with all levels of the company. So I see a lot of the decisions that are made, which could present a significant issue in terms of conflict of interest if I was working with another company in the same field. So that immediately culled that. And I've worked in about 26 industries to my current recollection.
Right.
So that limits how many companies you can work with. But I think the real driving force was I wanted to be able to deliver highly personalized quality service. Now, yes, I can't scale that up because I adapt on the fly a lot of the time. It's my broad experience that lets me adapt on the fly. And I could never bring in people that have the same experience. My unique set of experience is what's led me to this position. I can't offer that through someone else.
Do you ever regret that or question yourself and go, what if I did bring on and train someone else to do the kind of coaching that I'm doing? Or what if I developed this into training materials and licensed them, or did a train the trainer, or something along those lines? Has that ever been a question or something that you've considered?
Yes, it has. There's been times where the bank manager has rung up and you've thought, gee, I wish I'd scaled this a bit better.
Right.
And that was mainly around the 2008, 2009 period, where a lot of international clients pulled back.
Mm-hmm.
And currently with coronavirus, my clientele are pulling back, and I'm doing a lot of telephone and video conferencing rather than face-to-face. However, at that same time, in 2008, 2009, I would have been so upset if I had to lay people off. So if I'd grown it and then it crunched. So 95% of the time, I'm really happy with the choice I've made, and it's because I love the work I do.
Yeah.
I'm personally getting a lot out of this. Every company, every person I work with, like building the relationship with you was one of the most joyous things I've had, and catching up with you face to face. So it's all of this personal side means so much to me.
Yeah, and I love that, and I feel the same way around that. Although I must admit, I do always think about growth and scaling, but not at the expense of time with family or creating memories or meaningful experiences. You clearly have done an amazing job, Ken, with your clients of creating these experiences that their clients and their customers rave about, and that is what has really grown your business. For the independent consultant or small consulting firm owner, what might they be able to implement? I mean, they're not running call centers, or they don't have call centers for their own business, but what are maybe a few ideas that you could share from kind of a customer loyalty or customer love type of perspective or experience that we might all be able to use in our own businesses so that we could provide better experiences for our clients?
There are some very simple language techniques that make a massive difference to the way people relate to you. So some of the basic principles I teach, there's something called the 3 prompts. Now, I do this with everyone from politicians and presidents of companies through to call centers and face-to-face hospitality customer service. The 3 prompts are just asking yourself this question before you go into a transaction with someone. What do they want? What do I want? How do I help both of us enjoy getting there? On that first one, we are the most insecure animal on earth. So the first thing everyone wants is reassurance. Then they have a tangible need, and then they have a subconscious need. Second is, what do you want? And if you go into a transaction without knowing what you want, you're not going to get it. It's that simple. So many people go into something, they don't know what they need, what they want, and what they're prepared to give up to get it. And the third is, how do I help both of us enjoy getting there?
Right.
You're going to do this day in, day out. You want your client to enjoy it. If they enjoy it, you enjoy it, and the journey will be much stronger. So you have to take them on a journey from A to E, via B, C, and D, and enjoy that and have them enjoying it. That's the first step of customer love, customer loyalty, is people enjoying working with you. People thinking, wow, I want to ring up Mike and have a talk to him.
Right.
And then there's a whole batch, like in North America, it's very strong on positive, what I refer to as overt positive language. Great, awesome, fantastic, wonderful, excellent. You hear that all the time.
Right, yeah.
And it does make a massive difference. However, because you do hear it all the time, one of the great things to do is use covert positive language. Now, covert positive language is when you leave out words.
Give me an example.
Can't, don't, won't, and but. Now, can't, don't, won't, and but are all barrier words. They're blocking. We're constantly told what we can't do. Don't do this. You can't do that. However, if you can delete them from your vocabulary, people won't, on the surface, notice it. They'll go away thinking, wow, that was a great experience. And they won't know why. Excuse me. And that positive experience is what does it. Now, with can't, don't, won't, and but, it's not just that they're barrier words. They also have the tonal structure of a 4-letter word, an expletive. So you can hit your thumb with a hammer and go S-H-I-T, or you can hit your thumb with a hammer and go can't, don't, and you'll get the same punch of adrenaline. Right. You'll get the same vitriol. And there were experiments done where people put their fist in a bucket of water, and they had a normal conversation, and they could keep their fist in the bucket of water for X number of minutes. When they swore as many 4-letter words and expletives as they could keep their fist in the bucket of water roughly 3 times longer. If they said can't and don't, won't, and but with that same venom, they could keep their fist in the bucket of water twice as long as when they were holding a normal conversation.
Mm.
Subconsciously, we register these words. So if you can delete those and tell people what you can do rather than what you can't do, then this is the covert positive language. The other one that is a really strong one is the word actually.
Actually.
Actually is so ingrained in the North American idiom that I pick it up when I go to North America.
And what's bad or good about it?
I challenge anyone to find a sentence where they have to use the word actually and only the word actually.
Doesn't exist.
Other than when they're describing the word actually.
Right.
And where it has a negative input, so that's the redundancy in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a redundant negator. The negator aspect is when we were children, all of our well-meaning parents, aunts, uncles, teachers, mentors would use it to soften the blow. So Johnny's going to the zoo and it's his first time at the zoo and he's really, really excited. Mum, look at the zebra. Actually, Johnny, it's a giraffe. And it just pulled the rug out.
Right.
So we were programmed that when someone said the word actually, they were going to move the goalposts. They were going to change the rules on us or correct us.
Yeah. Because actually, so here we go. As you're mentioning that, what I'm thinking is you can go somewhere as a kid and then all of a sudden mom or dad says, actually, Michael, we're not going to be able to go there today because, and so I'm connecting with what you're saying there. So this is really interesting. And I can see how these little changes to how we speak or the words that we use or don't use have a really big impact. I want to go back though to one of the things that you mentioned at the beginning, Ken, which is, what do they want? What do I want? That whole piece there. Is that what you do when you go into work with organizations? Like, do you go in and identify what are all the potential questions or objections or situations that you might find yourself in, whether it's in a call center or dealing with clients across the table or in communications, and then work through that kind of structure of, okay, what do they want typically? Now, what do you want? Where's the resistance? Where's the challenge? And then how can you make it so that it's a win-win for both people or create the right experience in that specific situation? Is that the kind of an example of work that you would do with a client?
That's a perfect example, Mike. In the perfect world, when I can travel overseas to spend time with the client first, I'll spend 3 or 4 days just shadowing people, spending time with the key people, finding out what they do, finding out what they're trying to achieve. Right. Then I develop the what do I want, and then the journey after that. So very much you nailed that completely.
And the reason I'm trying to hit on this is I think, for anyone out there that wants to improve or to see some benefit from these best practices and techniques that you have, they can do this. I mean, for everyone listening right now, just think about what are the most common objections or questions or situations that you're in when you're speaking to a client or writing even copy for your website or proposals, and think, well, what does the end client want? What do they care most about? Then what do you want? What do you want to make sure that you're also able to capture or to receive? And then how do you make this an experience for both sides to win or a great experience? And I think it takes obviously a bit of time to work through, which is the value of having a coach like you involved in the process. But even if someone was to actually sit down and think about this themselves, they could likely find some gains or some ways of improving and therefore creating greater experiences and leading from that a longer customer loyalty.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you totally. Just applying those 3 basic steps, those 3 prompts to any transaction. And these steps that I spoke about and the language as well relate just as well in your personal life as your professional life. So it enhances personal relationships, understanding where people are coming from. Yeah. Definitely in a business world, taking those 3 steps through. You don't need a coach to sit and take you through those. You just need the time to analyze it.
Right. But what's interesting though about that, Ken, is that even though a lot of times people don't need a coach, right? The value that they would get by working with someone like you or whoever it is that most often we're not prepared to do the work, right? Or we need the hand holding because otherwise we know we're not going to actually take the action. I find that, when we work with coaches, sure, we could figure out what we want to achieve, but it would be a much longer, kind of circuitous route to get there. And we may not. We might get distracted. But by making an investment ourselves or making the decision to work with someone, we know that the chances of success, the chances of crossing that line are significantly higher. I don't know, is that your experience as well?
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. It's better bang for buck.
Yeah.
You're pulling in someone who's been doing this for decades and can cut to the chase and help you much quicker, plus instill the discipline in you to achieve that.
Right.
One of the things I do quite a bit is what's called backseating in meetings. So particularly in the Middle East, I'll go in with a company that's dealing with a sheikh or someone like that, and I'll just observe, and then I'll give them feedback for their next meeting, and we refine it and we work on it. Because when you're engaged in a transaction with someone, it's really hard to be stepping outside and analyzing what you're doing at the same time. Having that other set of eyes is really important as well.
Your business is so global. A lot of people, wonder, doesn't business have to only come in your own backyard? But here, so much of your business is, outside of Australia. Is that intentional? I mean, did you seek that out? Or just kind of, what are your thoughts around that?
It turned out intentional, if you like. But the first impetus, I was doing a bit of work in Australia, and then headsets.com came on board, and that took me as my first overseas step. And then as I started developing the network, I made a conscious choice and thought, no, I don't really want to work in Australia. That's where my home is. I want to have time off. I want to relax. As well as that, the Australian psyche is a much more laid-back business psyche. It's changed a lot in the last 30 years since I've started doing this. However, to tell people in Australian business how to run things and to use this high-level language is almost a slap in the face for them, because, Struth, mate, I really want to just sit back and get the job done type of thing. And interestingly, in North America, I'm introduced to everyone and shown around proudly. Wow, we have this coach from overseas. In Australia, I have to sign NDAs and not tell anyone the companies I'm working with because they want to be seen as self-made. So it's sort of, the way it turned out is great because I largely chill in Australia, other than conference calls, video conferencing, and video coaching. And most of my work is overseas. So I've created two lives. And that was what I was talking about initially, about having that life-work balance. I have a home in Australia, which is more relaxing.
You've done some work with governments.
Yep.
How, that's an area that a lot of people are, quite frankly, they're just scared or fearful, or they see it as this like insurmountable, massive stacks of paper and RFPs and all kinds of stuff. What's been your experience or, working with government?
It's been very mixed. Some bureaucracies in some countries are just solid red tape and paperwork. In other ones, a lot of the developing countries are the ones that are challenging in that they almost protect themselves with the paperwork. They protect themselves from change. For me, the idea has been finding a champion. And in every government agency I've worked with, there's always been a couple of people who are after new progressive ideas, want to try something new. Now, a lot of that is they're fresh blood. They've come in to change the world and they're great to work with. It's being selective in who you work with. If you can find the right champion in a government organization, it can really totally change the way you approach it.
How do you identify them? I mean, aside from them, if they're new to the organization, that might be a bit of a hat tip. But aside from that, how do you identify who is, that champion or who's a ripe candidate to become a champion? And then the second part of that question is, once you've identified them, how do you engage them in conversation to actually, confirm that your belief that they could be a champion without putting them off or without, kind of guiding them in the wrong direction? What are your thoughts on those two?
There's a couple of factors in it. One is a lot of the champions I've worked with have been the people who reached out to me.
Mm.
So they've identified a deficiency in what their organization was doing. So they've reached out to me. So they were very obvious. The other is when I've been invited in under a tender situation or a contract situation, I hold an initial workshop with usually middle management.
Mm-hmm.
And just by seeing the way the people are reacting in that, their body language, the questions they ask, you very quickly identify those that are sitting there leaning back saying, prove yourself to me, and those that are leaning forward and saying, hey, I really want to get involved in this.
Nice.
The
Yeah.
next step for me, once I've picked the 2 or 3 people there, I'll just have a social cup of coffee with them. I'll sit down and talk to them. I'll find out what they're trying to do, what their frustrations are, and what their goals are. And then I try and tailor it to a what's in it for me, for them.
Love it. Yeah.
What are they going to get? And then in the champion situation, then we work out, so they and I, what's in it for the managers above them.
Right.
How can we make their life easier? Where are they going to get the kudos? It's a bit manipulative, but it's getting through a situation where you've got a very strong old school bureaucracy.
And that sounds also like a way to move things up through the organization to essentially affect greater change, where if you're coming at it directly, you might just get knocked down. But this way you're building up that champion and slowly moving one step up, step up and step up until you've actually reached the point of the true decision maker, or the one that can actually influence the real change that you want. Is that correct?
That's absolutely right. Nailed it completely.
Got it. So Ken, you've written 3 books on customer service and client relationships. Of the 3 books, which one would you recommend to a consultant who's looking to grow their practice and to improve the work that they're doing?
I think the third book, Who Killed Customer Care, is a more readable book to get the message across. It's an allegory. It's a murder mystery. A little bit Ken Blanchard in his approach of telling the story and letting you find out the message through the story. The other 2 are much more case studies. And if you're orientated towards, I want to be taught, I want the bullet points to be shown to me and spoon feed me, the first 2. But Who Killed Customer Care it's a more enjoyable read. And people that I have worked with who have read it have remembered the points a lot stronger because of that.
Because of the story attached to it.
Yeah,
got it. So Ken, first of all, I want to thank you again for coming on, sharing some of your insights and experiences. That's just been wonderful to have that here and spend this time with you today. But I also want to make sure that people can learn more about you and your work. So just let us know, where's the best place for people to go?
Easiest connection is just the website, which is kenwelsh.com. And you can just simply email me at ken@kenwelsh.com.
There we go. Keep it simple, Ken.
Yep, absolutely.
We'll make sure to link all that up in the show notes here. Again, thanks so much.
And Mike, just a word, anyone who listens to this, listen to the other podcasts. Mike has some amazing people talking on these podcasts.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.